So many of our customers utilize variable rate seeding or variable rate prescriptions in their operation. So if it is seeding or a fertilizer application pass, we can create those prescriptions within Operations Center. So, and here I'm going to actually do this as part of our work plan that we're saving for this field. So like before, I'm in Plan and Work Planner. We will populate here to our 2025 seeding plan list. And we're going to start a new work plan to get this prescription uploaded. So we're going to start plan seeding. We're going to grab a field we want. Let's say we want, we'll say we're going to do Lanny's 80 here. So go ahead and go next. And our crop type is going to be corn. Our variety, we're just going to grab our ABC 789, select the variety that you're hopefully going to use for that field. Then from here, right now I don't have any prescriptions populated. So if I had any already created, they'd be showing up in this list. Otherwise, I'll go to create at the bottom. So now we're actually going to start using the Talis Agronomy Prescription Creator to create the prescription for this field. So we have a few different options on prescriptions. We can freeform our zones. We could use some yield history or maybe some elevation data. A lot of different options on how to create our prescription. So our prescription source, so average yield, that'd be more of our yield contour, field operation, things that we've done previously. So maybe it was some liquid fertilizer application. We want to try to match those rates for our prescription. Maybe it's using the elevation data from those field operation maps also. Otherwise, if we had an existing prescription, maybe from last year, and we just want to edit it, we can use the existing prescription, or we can also use some soil survey data. The common one I seem to see quite a bit is the freeform of zones, where we're going to actually manually draw our zones. So we'll select freeform, we'll generate, then on the right side of our map, we'll select the manually edit zones to draw our zones on this field. So here I can tell this field has a pivot on it. I can see there's one in this bottom corner too. So a few different options for drawing this pivot. So we select the zone first, that way it goes blue, and then I'll select my pivot tool right in the middle. I'll scroll in, here's my pivot point. I'm going to click once, drag it out. I'm going to get to our outer portion of the pivot. And we're probably about right there. So there is now 3 different zones on this field. So we have our large irrigated, this dry land portion of the field, then also down here also. But we can also tell there's a pivot down in this corner. So I'm going to grab my mouse pointer. I'm going to click on this zone to select it, and then we'll draw our pivot on this one also. So I'll select our pivot tool, click here. We're going to be about here. And now we have the irrigated cover for this portion also. So maybe this is irrigated also, maybe it's not. Another good way to create our pivots is if we do know the coordinates and the length of our pivots, we can use this little tool to generate it also. So if we know the latitude and longitude, we could type those in directly. Maybe it's worth walking up to the pivot point with our phone or pulling up as close as we can with one of our Green Star displays and getting to the GPS coordinates of the receiver and actually seeing what those coordinates are for that pivot point. I know in a lot of instances, I'll use my phone to get those coordinates, then I'll just save them to input here. If I know the length of that pivot, maybe our end gun throw, maybe it's 1,350 feet, just for our overall length between the pivot and the throw, we can do that. We can hit OK, then it'll auto-generate what this circle needs to look like. So we've already drawn that one on here, so I'm not going to worry about that in that instance, but that would be a very accurate way to draw that pivot on this field. So from here, we have our zones drawn, but maybe let's say just through this pivot, through the irrigated, there was a little spot over here that we wanted to change the rate of also. So click back on my mouse pointer, click on my field to make it blue, then I'll grab this polygon tool. So if there was a portion of this field that I wanted to bump up in a different rate, maybe it's some bottom ground, or maybe it's some sandier ground that's more likely to burn up and we wanted to cut back on the rate, whatever instance. A lot of fields are different, or most fields are different, and could take a lot of different scenarios of what we want to do with our rates within the fields. So we get all of our zones drawn, we're happy with them, we'll hit create zones. Now on the left side then, we're gonna see what all of our zones are, how many acres are within each zone. Then as we go over them, it's actually gonna change the highlight of that color on our map. Same thing too, if I'm looking over my zone, okay, that's number 5, I can tell that little icon on the left side of it. We come here, this zone's number 6. So same thing, if we go over it, we can change them. Now, say I had 2 zones or multiple zones I wanted to be the same. I can select them, otherwise I could select the check marks on the left side here too. Then I can merge those zones together. So by merging those together, now we're down to 4 zones and that rate is gonna be the same. So now our dry land, we're gonna just say this is 24,000 seeds per acre. That pivot at the bottom right, we're gonna call that 32,000. The bulk of our rest of our pivot, we can call that 32,000 also. We can keep it the same even though they're 2 separate zones, or if it wanted it to be a different rate, we can do that also. And then on this zone, we're just gonna call this 33,500. So from here, I have a rate assigned to all of our zones, and now we can go ahead and hit save. This rate total applied at the bottom, if we think about how many seeds are in our bag, so if we have 80,000 seeds in a unit, it's gonna take us about just over 29 bags to plant this field. We'll go ahead and hit save. As it saves, now this will populate into our work plan and we'll be able to see this map on our work plan. Plus also now we're ready to go with this plan. So it's saved in our list. When we get to this field, it will populate and away we go. All right, so we're back in the work plan. Here's our prescription. Here's our zones that we drew. So we can see these now. If we came back in a month and wanted to review them, we can see them at that point too. Another part within here too is this prescription rate setup is we can determine or change some settings in here that we would commonly need to do in the display on some of our different settings. So out of zone rate, what rate do we want it to do? So if we wanted to keep the existing rate or if we wanted to type in a rate, we can do that if we get outside of the zone. So this is stuff that we could set up now and that will populate in the prescription also, or our prescription settings versus having to do this in the display. So now from our work plan, we'd continue on just like we did before. But one instance or something I'm asked quite a bit is, what if I wanted to use this prescription for my liquid also? Well, we can do that. So if I go ahead and pull up this prescription, well, actually we'll create first, and then we'll create this prescription from an existing prescription, and we'll assign our new liquid rates. So we'll create from existing prescription, and here's this corn map that we just drew. So from here, we want to keep the zones the same, but we're just actually going to change the rate. So our dry land, if I wanted this at, I'm just going to throw in some numbers, 18 gallons per acre. This pivot, we're at, we'll call it 24, and let's go to 26, where we plan at a little heavier population. So whatever instance is, whatever your fertilizer program is, maybe it makes sense to do some of these adjustments. Maybe we straight rate everything. Maybe we're gonna throw some liquid through our pivot later, and we actually wanna pull those rates down and go heavier on our dry land. We can do that, but the nice part is we can match up those zones for both our seeding and now our liquid. So we'll go ahead and save this prescription. And once it's saved now, we'll get into our work plan and then we just finish up our process like we've done in a previous video. So if I wanted all my tracks, my machine information, so I'll grab my 8360R, my 1770, grab my operator, whatever notes we want. I'm just gonna put test in here, as we're not actually using this work plan. Then now it's in our list and we can go ahead and select it, send that to the equipment. And now that work plan will come through our display like it has previously. So prescriptions, good tool. A lot of customers are utilizing them in different aspects, but a good option if we're thinking about doing some variable rate and what our process looks like for getting them into the machines.